Hey, champs. Welcome back to Yoga Biz Champ podcast. This episode is a little bit different, a little bit shorter. No guest, no interview, just me wrapping up the year, reflecting on what I'm seeing inside yoga studios, and saying thank you and sharing where this podcast is headed next. So, if you've been listening while closing up the studio, driving to teach, or sitting with a coffee before class, this one is meant just to feel like a real conversation. So, looking back on this year has been really full and wonderful. I've worked with yoga studio owners at every stage, teachers dreaming about opening a yoga studio, brand new yoga studios finding their footing, and established owners realizing they don't want to keep carrying everything alone anymore. And this season, especially, studio owners have really been honest with me. I'm hearing, I love my community, but I'm exhausted. My classes are busy, but the money doesn't line up. I didn't open a yoga studio to be buried in admin. I want to see growth, but not at the cost of my sanity. And at the same time, and you've been hearing some of these inspiring owners on this podcast, that we're seeing studios also on the flip side, simplifying, stabilizing, putting systems in place, tracking, growing, not just by doing more, but by doing the right things better. So, kind of five things to think about in your yoga studio right now. Before we head into what's next, I want to give you five things I've been focusing on if I was running a yoga studio right now. And these are not just trends, not hacks, but real foundations. And the number one is team leadership. Teachers don't need more rules. They do need systems, but they need clarity. So they need clear expectations, clear communication, clear leadership. And a lot of burnout I see in studio owners come from carrying everything alone because leadership hasn't been clearly defined. Strong teams don't happen by accident, they happen when the owner steps fully into the leadership role. Um, the number two one is audience research and class schedule alignment. I'm just coming across way too many studios that are building the class schedules, especially newer studios, but building schedules around studio availability rather than true audience research. Your schedule should reflect who actually comes to your studio, not who you wish they would be. So, are your class times built around real attendance data? Do your offerings match the local demographics and their needs? Are you programming for beginners, regulars, long-term members intentionally? Um, your schedule, your schedule is your product. Your schedule is your most powerful business tool, and quite often a little bit overlooked, or we kind of bury our head in the sands a little bit and hope things get better. Um, so yeah, really doing the audience research. I've talked about the most successful studio launch I ever had was where we did a ton of audience research and launched with 220 members. And so I truly know the power of this part, making sure that your schedule is aligned with your ideal clients and the community's needs. And the other one, my studio owners know I'm always bugging them about this, but showing up on social media now differently. Marketing's different than it was. So we've got to get stop. I say it, stop from hiding behind Canva. So the Canva posts are fine for informing, but hiding behind graphics is not connection. And if you're following anything on Instagram or TikTok, I know I spend a lot of time swiping through stories or reels. It's a little bit more entertainment now, but it's a lot more authentic. It's not as polished as it used to be. It's just raw and real speaking. So studio owners who are growing right now are doing simple thing, raw recordings, talking to the camera, sharing what's happening in the studio, answering real questions, and being visible as the leader. So again, you don't need to be polished on this. I'm a big believer in brand, but remember, those stories are gone in 24 hours, right? Those reels are gone after a swipe. All right. If that scares you, all right. So you don't have to be polished, but you do need to be present. Most don't join studios, they join energy, leadership, trust, and the feels. This place feels like I would fit in here. Now, number four, getting out into the community. And this depends on your business, but I talk about the community studio here. That's my jam. I think that's where a lot of people are listening here. And so growth doesn't just happen online. As much as I love social media posts, social media advertising, smart social media advertising, fully into it, all over it, and SEO and all of that stuff. But it just doesn't only happen online. Like partnerships with local businesses, community events, collaborations that make sense for your audience, studios that get out of their four walls and into the community stay top of mind. And that matters more than ever right now. And I had so much success with this. If you have these partners that you have a back and forth friendship with, you'll refer people to a massage therapist or a chiropractor, and they'll have your cards or brochures in their place, right? When you do things like challenges and you've got prizes and things like that, when you've got those relationships and you ask them to donate something, they step up because you're going to promote the heck out of them, right? So if you're a community studio, be part of your community. All right. Number five, I don't think marketing automations are no longer optional. You've heard me say this before, and that is um, we have powerful tools now. We have so many powerful tools where the data can help us do amazing marketing. Manual follow ups don't scale. But even though personal connection does, but memory doesn't scale, hope doesn't scale. But marketing automations are essential now, not to feel corporate, but to create consistency and help you. It's like having an extra employee working on your behalf to nudge people. So new students need clear next steps, timely follow-ups, nudges, value, guidance without pressure. Automations done well create a better experience for your students and give you your time back. And they help convert new people into memberships. Let's talk about where this podcast is going. I think we're coming into season 5. It started as a passion project. It started as very casual. I threw up an episode when I wanted to, and we're growing, we're evolving, and I I really want to bring more conversations around conversations with studio owners like you've been hearing lately, but dialing in a lot more on the leadership side of things, scheduling, systems, marketing that works, tech that saves times, and growth that feels sustainable. I feel done a little bit of research. I could be wrong, but I am not finding any other podcasts out there that are doing this just for yoga studio owners, just for yoga studios. We're not boutique fitness marketing here. We're just talking yoga language here. And this is not about just a podcast for teachers, but it is a podcast for teachers aspiring to be studio owners. So we're going to be bringing a lot more stuff in on helping you make better decisions, save time, make more money, increase your community. Now, I do want to say one of my KPI, so key performance indicators, are things that we have studio owners do. It's tracking the numbers, right? One of my key performance indicators I want to do is to grow this um, podcast more. And so if you are getting any value out of this podcast, and I hear the stories, I have people book calls with me, intro calls to me that have binge listened to my podcast and are regurgitating things back to me that I've said, and also telling me that I repeat myself a lot, which I probably agree with. But, when you've had one life, one studio, one life experience to talk about, I'm probably going to forget that I've said it before. So I need your help here. And that is, if you are a studio owner and you're in any of the groups or in any of the places where conversations are happening, and if in some of the groups people are asking for podcast recommendations or coach recommendations, I really, if you've got any value out of this, I really appreciate that you sharing episodes in those groups. If you can recommend me, if there's someone looking for a studio coach who's actually in the trenches. So yeah, if you've got any value, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I can't tell you how much that helps. And I know people always say, oh, yeah, I'll do it. But it really does help. Like, if you've got any value out of this podcast, that's the number one thing I'll ask you to do that. The number two thing is, if you see anybody talking and you think that my services or this podcast will be of any value, I would appreciate you sharing. That's the most you can do for this, what I consider my best free resource. All right. And we call that in marketing a call to action, which I talk to my studio owners about. And that is every post, every social media thing, every email should have a call to action. What do you want people to do? It's essential marketing. What do you want people to do? And what I want from you is those things. So if you could do that, that would be magic for me. Thank you so much. Um, I also want to remind you that I do focus on the audio version, and especially because I got podcast sponsors now. So that's something that I watch the numbers on a little bit more than I used to and report those numbers. But there is a video version of this podcast that comes just out a little bit later. So if you go onto YouTube, search for Yoga Biz Champ, you can subscribe to my channel there. And if you're like me, I watch a lot of YouTube on my TV. And so it's kind of nice to sit there and have a coffee and watch a conversation about yoga studio owners. All right. And I want to give some gratitude to a few people that really help things happen. This podcast started with me. I've got a background in editing and graphics and design and all that stuff. And so I can edit a podcast. I can edit videos. I've got all that skill set. But what I don't have is a ton of time. And since we've increased to every 2 weeks an episode coming your way, to help me do that, I've got these amazing sponsors that also allow me to have an amazing editor who is actually, I'm not sure if she's listening to this because she's not editing this episode. I'm going to put this one out on my own. Um, but Suzanne is my editor. Yes, Suzen. She was a gift from my good friend Shannon Crow from the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast, who passed on her editor. And I gotta say, Suzanne is the best thing that has come my way. Um, she does my sound and video editing, and she has this calm energy. She gives me gentle nudges when I'm behind schedule, and she has a great understanding of how I work and my neurodiverse ways that she helps edit and make me sound warmer and she gives me these amazing last minute pushes. That if you're an ADHD person like myself, there we kind of leave things to the last minute, and it's not always the best thing. But hey, such is life. It gets out there, it gets to you, and we're keeping it on time. But because of her, I've really been able to scale this podcast to the bi-weekly episodes, deliver more content, and without burning out. So I really couldn't do this without her. And I will tell a quick story. The very first episode that she um, edited, I had my big ass Apple AirPod Plus headphones on that cover my ear. And I was taking the train on a Saturday morning downtown, which goes from my place probably about 10 stops to the waterfront where it's a dead end. And I was listening to the podcast and I was so enthralled. I was like, oh, wow, she's made me sound so much warmer and listen to the tones of this. And I was so listening to her art that I looked up and I realized I had gone all the way to the waterfront and then bounced back and started. My train was heading back home. So I had to get off about 4 stops later, get back on foot and on another train. Anyway, all because of Suzanne's amazing skill set. So, and I want to give gratitude to my podcasts. Offering Tree, the sales arm, and boutique fitness brokers. They took a risk on me just from our relationship and knowing that I was going to be a very specific, not a giant, but a very specific target audience. And they took a risk on me and sight unseen, signed contracts. And because of them, I'm able to provide a lot more. I know sometimes ads feel annoying, but they are essential and they are great partners. Offering Tree, it's a great all-in-one platform. We have a wonderful, wonderful relationship. I just really love everybody about out there and the support of myself and the podcast and the amazing Sinead that have a great relationship over there and Katie, the partnership person. So really grateful for the entire team over there and the sales arms. Chris, you've heard him many times giving us so much valuable information on this podcast. And Stephanie, my crazy friend that you've heard multiple times on this podcast, if you've been listening. But anyway, the whole team over there have again really embraced this podcast and really supported us. And so we really want to make sure we support them back because we believe that what they're doing for studio owners out there is just really fantastic, taking a lot of the stress off of the sales and outreach and lead management for studio owners that hate that side of business. And then our good friend, Boutique Fitness Brokers, Mitch, been on this podcast a few times, jumped in sight unseen and said, I'm there, I'm with you, we're there to support you. And he is my go-to person for talking to and hooking people up for selling a studio. We want to get you profitable first, so let's work together if you're not. and then um, uh, and then also for people purchasing existing studios, which can be a nice fast track way into the industry. So all of them can always be found in the show notes on all of the episodes of my podcast. So again, thank you to those amazing sponsors and for believing in this podcast and believing in independent yoga studios like my listeners. So the trusted value of this audience and supported me while I learned how sponsorship work, and that trust really does matter. So looking ahead, if you're dreaming of opening a yoga studio, there is a way to do it right. If you already own one and feel overwhelmed, you're not broken, the systems just need work, and you don't have to do it alone. So if this episode resonated, share it with another studio owner, leave a review if you've gotten any value, and explore all of my free resources at yogabizchamp.com. And I just really want to thank everybody for listening. Your listening matters to me. Your feedback matters to me, and your follows on social media matter to me. So thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing, and thank you for supporting this podcast and listening to my ramblings, and my genuine interest in these rocking studio owners and the industries that support our studios. So until 2026, thank you, champ. Let's keep those studios rocking. And I will see you in the new year.